Hi, happy Friday. I'm Jennifer Wilson, and I'm here with my good friend Amy Vetter on Leadership Lunch Chat. And we are excited to be with you today to share leadership insights and ideas and thoughts from our lives, our work, and from the profession. And Amy and I thought that today we would talk about the importance of getting outside our, I think, maybe that's the way to say it, getting out there in the world, regardless of our role. So, regardless of what role you play in your organization, getting out there and meeting with um, others at conferences and networking groups, listening to experts and thought leaders and visionaries, prognosticators, learning about best practices. And so now that we're past one of the peak seasons of the year, we think it's time to look forward and think about where am I going to get new ideas, education, new perspective, and what will I do this spring, summer, and fall to broaden my personal horizons as a leader, but also broaden the way that my organization thinks because I got out there. So, Amy, I'm going to hand it to you and you can kind of start with some things you're thinking about.
Well, I definitely think this is a great time to pause and just take a look at all that's available and what your goals are as far as what you want to learn and who you want to meet. Um, because I really, and I know Jen does too, when you put something out there and keep it as a goal, it helps to make sure that that vision happens for you. And one of the things that learning is not just about the learning itself, but it's also about the people you're meeting or collaborating with and just getting new ideas from. For us, we are on an off busy season. So while the accounting profession is heads down, we are doing that ourselves, doing a lot of learning ourselves. And I know, and maybe Jen, you can talk about your process, but I always set goals for myself and then figure out what training and learning that I need and what would be the best places to go, plus the things that are important. So, for instance, Jen and I are in a networking group with other people that specialize in different areas so that we can stay up to date on what's going on with each of them. But then I, like to stretch myself and push myself out of my comfort zone and go to conferences or training events that are new to me or that are going to give me another perspective. And it's always really important to be talking to the people there to learn so much about what they do. So I think there's a couple things as far as looking at my own personal goals and expanding that. For me this year, I really had set goals for myself to, there was work around my keynote business. So I signed up for a mastermind group that was different than I had done before, that pushed me out of my comfort zone, but was also people that were ahead of me so that I'm striving, meeting people as well of where I want to be. Secondly, I've just like Jen have always had a coaching and consulting business, but I wanted to just get another perspective on training in coaching and find tools that would be additive to the things that I do. So I signed up for coaching training to see, what do I have? What am I missing? Best practices there. And a third area for me was definitely board work. And so I signed up for conferences that would help me to understand what are the hot topics that are happening in the boardroom and networking with other people that is doing that kind of work. So those were like three big goals I had personally and professionally in my business, but I had to seek out what those things were going to be. And all three of them, plus our networking group, have been extremely helpful to me and have expanded my thinking. Even if it's 2%. I think sometimes we go into things thinking it has to be big, but just that 2% difference, if you can walk away with 2 or 3 actionable things, because we can't implement that many things anyways, it's extremely important, and constantly growing ourselves and improving our craft in the things that we do.
I love it. I love all of that. And I love your very specific goals, tying that, the seeking, the learning around those. Makes perfect sense. I this year, one of my goals was really both learning and then exposing AI to my clients and to my team, and figuring out, really sort of where the very best places to begin using it in our business would be, but also helping our clients not be afraid of it, and helping them really kind of step in and try it, but still giving them and really being straight about the guardrails and the concerns and issues with it as well. The copyright and trademark IP issues, the confidentiality and privacy issues, that kind of stuff. So we've sought out learning in a number of areas related to that so that we could create some content. And that's something that I dove deep in. And I love to learn kind of a random technology subject now and then. It's, just something that's, I grew up there and I'm interested in it. And so Samantha on our team and I really dug deep and played a lot with it and read a lot about it. And so, now I have like this interest in trying to, get to some sort of AI education that's not in the profession, to hear what, folks outside the profession are saying about it and how they're using it. So that's something that's on my agenda to look for this summer. But I also, I get a tremendous amount of learning going to the conferences that I have the privilege to speak at. And so that's something that's cool. First of all, most have really great and new name kind of innovative keynote speakers that are always thought provoking and worthwhile. And then, there are also all these breakout sessions on subjects that I don't have time to study or learn, that I just am interested in. And so I try to attend sessions when I'm there, and really see what kind of takeaways that I can bring back to my team. And that's really where I see a lot of our clients, accounting firm clients, kind of, I'm going to say, falling down. And that's why we thought this subject might be good, because I think sometimes we think, well, the managing partner or the service line leaders or the operational leaders like HR will go learn that, or and the line partners and the senior managers and managers might not get that much exposure to conferences and outside training. I know we're all getting CPE, so I'm not blind to the CPE thing, but it's different getting CPE at home, or CPE in your state, or CPE in your local city, than going to these national conferences and really getting out there. And so a few on my list that I just call everybody to, I just say, gosh, you got to go. Digital CPA in December each year is, it started kind of as a CAS community. It has broadened beyond that for sure, but it's probably the most progressive or innovative practitioners that I encounter in a big group like that. The most transformation ready, change minded people, and I love hanging out with them and hearing what they're up to. And then Engage, AICPA Engage, which comes up this June. It's usually the first week of June-ish each year in Vegas, and it's a huge conference, and it has a whole bunch of different angles. And if you do end up going, or if you've been going and you don't go to any of the edge sessions, I strongly recommend listen to what the next gen folks are talking about, or to the tech sessions and hear what they're saying. Don't just go to sort of your narrow traditional niche, broaden it, and hear other content that might be for people that aren't even what you do, but it will change the way you think.
Yeah, and on that CPE route, it can't always be for CPE. So there's learning that we need to have, if you are certified. But I think one of my pet peeves in this profession is only taking learning if you know if you're going to get CPE, instead of looking inside, stepping back and pausing and saying, what is it that I need to do to grow myself and to help support the people around me? And so not all of that is going to be CPE. Some of it can be personal, some of it can be technical, but like Jen said, it could be something completely outside of what you do every day, just to kind of push you and your thought process and how other people work as well. So I think it's important to think about, from those categories of, from a personal growth perspective, from a professional growth perspective, and then what's required of me, in those three buckets, and really take a look at that. And also, like I said, if there are places that you aspire to be one day, or people that you aspire to meet, make sure that you are looking at the conferences of who's speaking and where you have potential for networking. I would also say, Jen and I and many others do courses online as well. And so not everybody has the accessibility to travel. I am a proponent of in-person conferences because I think the best relationships are formed in person when you're not necessarily in a room learning. But, many courses online are collaborative as well, that give you the opportunity to see how other people are doing things. So I think it's really important that you have a balance of both, because, just like when we talk about the pipeline problem, right? In any profession, but especially in this profession, there is a problem for associations of people showing up. And the future of associations, if you want them to be there, needs every generation coming and every generation giving input. And if for some reason, like let's say even your state, that's where you have access to go to a conference, to one of your state associations, and you aren't seeing topics there that matter to you, raise your hand, speak up, get on a committee. This is the time to really show leadership and bring those thoughts forward of the things that you need to learn, because what they cater to is what the majority of people have always gone to. But if they're not hearing your voice and they're not hearing why you might not be showing up, it's really important for them to know those things so that they can craft the agendas in the right way so that you will show up. Because I can just tell you personally that in-person conferences, at any age I was at any level that I was at, whether it be in my city, my state, or nationally, have made such an important part of my career and the people that I've gotten to know, and being able to have a voice and an impact in shaping where the future is going. So if you want to be one of those people, which hopefully so many of you do, want to be beyond the learning, beyond the CPE, but actually, contributing to what the future of education and learning looks like, speak up, volunteer, raise your hand, do something to be a part of the solution.
I absolutely love that, Amy. I really think that what is needed right now is the new voices, whether they're next gen voices or voices of people who haven't been attracted to these educational opportunities, to come out and here are the things I need. Here's the stuff I'm worried about. Here are the things I want to learn more about. I had somebody reach to me this week and ask me for resources around empathy. And this individual just really wants to develop, and hone the leadership skill of empathy. And it's innate, but it can be developed, and you can make systems around it. And so I was sharing some books and some TED Talks, and and I was just thinking, man, what a great subject for a conference. So then I wrote it down, but I haven't done it yet. Forward that as an idea to all my conference friends and say, hey, not that I want to teach it. There are people who've written these books and done the TED Talks. Let's go get them, And I know Brene Brown. We've seen her, and I'd love to have her. That'd be amazing if we could get her. But there are lots of other experts on these ideas, whatever those ideas are. I just used empathy as an example, but when we run into this content and this cool stuff that we think, wow, this is great, that's the stuff to bring forward to your association leaders and say, hey, this is the kind of thing that I could benefit from, whether it's remote or whatever. So I do think that's a great point, directing it. The other thing I wanted to raise, Amy, is that, something you've done really well is, blending business with health and wellness and mindset and education around, like being healthier, being a healthy in body, mind, and spirit. And I just want to say to anybody listening that it's super crucial that not only do we not just say, well, my learning has to be CPE or I'm not doing it. We also say my learning doesn't have to be all business or leadership or technology. My learning could be something completely different, like yoga or meditation, or like I had some of the most incredible learning working 2 years with this really great running coach. It was so much more than running that we were doing together. It was amazing, just amazing evolution and transformation ideas. So, and, I'd throw gardening in there too. I went to a workshop on gardening this past weekend, and, just there's the learning that you get can be applied in all the other areas. And so Amy and I just really wanted to call you to that in this conversation this Friday. We wanted to say, hey, what are your plans to transform transform thinking in yourself? And hopefully you get some ideas from this conversation to get out there and schedule some learning opportunities.
Yeah. And just to kind of go down that path of empathy, kind of going back to those 3 buckets of personal, professional, and then technical, right? And so a lot of times when we think of a term like empathy, being an empathetic leader and expecting that in a professional, where are you doing personal training on empathy? And because it all begins with us personally. So a lot of these goals that we have for ourselves or ways we would like to improve, there are things we can practice at home and there's things that we can practice at work. And not all is CPE eligible, right? But like, there's great training, there's great podcasts. Like you said, there's books, but a lot of that starts without thinking about the business side and really getting into yourself personally and being open to that process. I think also with learning and anything as big as that or technology, it could be either, right? Any topic that you're choosing is, I think it's really important to not have a finish line to it, because there's no like, well, I learned empathy, I'm good now. Because or I learned AI and I'm good now. It's having that evolving learning and aha moments, because like, think of how long you've been gardening, Jen, and then they probably said something at that gardening training that you went to that they've probably said 5 times before, but you weren't ready to hear it yet. And until you've got that base knowledge, then whatever they said this past weekend was additive to that, right? And then you're like, oh, that was like an aha moment. But we know with learning and education and listening that we can only take so much in our brains. And then there's kind of like a stopping point. So just realize that it's an evolution. It's a lifelong learning process. It's the joy of learning and expanding yourself. And you can take one topic for 10, 20, 30 years and keep expanding yourself and growing in that area. So don't feel like you've got to take a training, be an expert on it, figure out what that continuous learning is going to look like. And that's why networking is so important, to have that support system and accountability.
I love it. And then share it, share it. One of the most powerful ways to process your learning and also to like cement it in is to share it, to talk about it with other people, find other people who know something about it or who are interested in it. And they might ask you questions and talk it through. Don't just go off on the mountain and get the learning and then come back and keep it to yourself. That's one of the saddest things I see inside organizations is the lack of cross-pollination, and the biggest aha that I've gotten lately in gardening is about risk-taking. I have really sad, strange loyalty to my plants. And even if they, are dying and don't work there, I don't tend to rip them out and start over. And, I'm afraid to mess something up. And, the master gardeners that I've interacted with are like, what are you talking about? Like it's dirt, just tear it out and put it in, and you can change anything anytime, and you can change it every 3 years, and that's never been my mindset. And I was like, like, could be a metaphor for being possibly stuck in my ways in some places. You know what I mean?
Exactly. where that expands in so many places in your life, not just one, right?
Yeah, like you're thinking that you're sitting there in, like a personal life, thing, but it's also translatable. And so anyway, Amy and I just felt super strongly that as we leave peak season in the accounting profession and head into the season of proactivity, that part of it ought to be you looking for these learning opportunities and getting out there and stepping outside your bubble, out of your comfort zone, learning some new things and going to some new places, possibly meeting new people and getting new ideas and bringing them back home and causing growth in your organizations and families as a result. And of course, in yourself. So we are grateful that you were here with us this Friday. And I don't know when we stream again. Caroline might know that answer. But I don't know if it's next Friday or when it is again. Caroline's shaking her head no. Here, but I can. So it will be sometime soon. We will schedule it on the platform. But we are so grateful to have you with us and hope that you would share ideas of things you'd like us to process with you in future leadership lunch chats. Thanks, Amy, for being here today. And thanks everybody else.
Have a great weekend.
Hey, you too.